Why do those investment companies need Bitcoin, right? They need Bitcoin to attract capital. You see it happening, $600 million flowing into BlackRock yesterday, $10 billion in a month. Right, if you look at the ETFs, what you'll see is that the Bitcoin ETFs are crawling up past all the commodities. They're about to eat the gold ETFs, and then they're going to eat the S&P 500 index ETFs. And everybody's going to take note. Vanguard is going to take note.
MicroStrategy founder and executive chairman Michael Saylor recently delivered a compelling speech on Bitcoin at the Bitcoin Atlantis conference in Madeira, an autonomous region of Portugal emerging as a significant crypto hub and haven for cryptocurrency investors. Organized by Madeira, a local nonprofit focused on financial education, the conference featured keynote addresses and fireside chats from leading personalities in the crypto space. Last October, President Miguel Albuquerque of Madeira announced the establishment of a Bitcoin business hub in the region to foster innovation, welcoming all things related to Bitcoin. President Albuquerque personally invited Saylor to speak at the Bitcoin Atlantis conference, where Saylor delivered an impassioned speech titled "Bitcoin is for Everyone." Addressing an enthusiastic audience, Saylor predicted widespread adoption of Bitcoin, envisioning billions of humans, millions of families, high-level investment firms like BlackRock, and countless companies purchasing Bitcoin in 2024 and beyond. He attributed this surge in demand to the approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs, which he believes has unleashed a flood of new investments across various investor categories, including large investment firms, banks, nonprofit organizations, and even governments worldwide. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
You can't attract capital without Bitcoin, and you can't outperform. Bitcoin is going to outperform the S&P and gold and bonds, and as it outperforms, everyone who's indifferent and objective, who doesn't know what it is and doesn't care, right? They're going to just say, move more of my money over here, because the world's full of people that would just like to not lose their money. What we're going to see is investment companies need this to outperform, and that's going to result in them generating income, and that results in them staying relevant, right? I mean, how many people are bragging about their, new gold ETF? It's not relevant. You want to be a leader, right? The people that we look to are the people that discovered or created Google and Apple and Microsoft, and they create the next airplane, and they put Starlink in the sky, and they give us internet, and they give us the next phone, right? Be relevant, be a leader. These companies want to be leaders. You won't find a CEO that says, my aspiration is to be viewed as a follower and late to the next great thing. And they all want to create shareholder value, right? You can't create shareholder value by shrinking. And so that takes us to operating companies. It's the same thing. But operating companies, for the most part in the world, are like type 1 diabetics. I had 100 competitors over 20 years. They all failed. There's a 99% mortality rate with these companies, right? You look at the number and you're like, well, I don't know 300 million companies. That's because they're failing millions every single month. They're all failing all the time. Why are they failing? They can't store energy. They can't harness capital, right? What does Facebook do? They give all their capital back to the shareholders in a dividend and a buyback. What does Apple do? They give their capital back in a dividend and a buyback. They take on debt. How do companies fail? They leverage up. They take on debt. What happens when you take on debt? Well, I used to say to people, well, we have 500 million in capital. We could go for 40 quarters. We could go for 10 years and not make any money, and we'll still be in business. It's like you could go for 10 years and not eat and still be alive. That's indestructible. On the other hand, when you give all the money back and you borrow $1 billion, well, in that case, you end up with a debt covenant, and you have to generate $27 million this quarter, And if you generate $26 million this quarter, if you miss by one 1/1000th of your capital structure, if you miss by 0.1%, you actually trip all the debt covenants and the bank owns you. You're technically in violation of your debt. They can call the loan, you're insolvent. So think about the difference between you starving to death if you miss one meal versus you starving to death when you haven't eaten for the year. Okay, that's the difference between having capital and having no capital. The status quo in the world today is we tell people you can't keep capital in an operating company because all of the uses, all the liquid capital is dilutive and it doesn't beat the cost of capital. Bitcoin solves the problem. You can harness capital, you can improve your products, you can grow your revenues, you can beat inflation for the first time. You know, the Magnificent Seven are good investments. The other 493 companies are not, because the other 493 companies cannot beat inflation. Because beating inflation means increasing your cash flow 8% every year forever. Or more like raising your prices 10% a year forever.
In the initial segment of his speech, Saylor delivered a particularly impactful message. Bitcoin has no enemies, and the community has no enemies. What we have are people who need Bitcoin but haven't yet realized why they should be our allies. He expressed his belief that many current Bitcoin critics will eventually become active participants in the Bitcoin ecosystem, as all roads lead to Bitcoin. Saylor's conviction stems from his belief that Bitcoin is not only a digital asset but also the inevitable future of global finance. According to Saylor, the reluctance of some company executives or investment giants to embrace Bitcoin stems from a lack of understanding or entrenched biases. However, he is confident that with each significant milestone, such as the approval of ETFs or the adoption of Bitcoin by new countries or institutions like BlackRock, more organizations will recognize the shortcomings of their resistance and begin their journey towards embracing Bitcoin. Saylor predicts that over time, even the most ardent critics will transition from denial to skepticism, then to becoming traders, investors, and ultimately, Bitcoin maximalists.
And so what does Bitcoin offer them? Extended lifespan. You see a CEO and you say, well, you're going to adopt Bitcoin. He says, why should I? Say, well, it might keep your company from going bankrupt in 10 years. It might allow you to continue to do business and serve your customers for the next 100 years. How many companies are 100 years old? Not many. I'll ask you another question. How many famous education institutions with endowments are 100 years old? Most of them, right? Why is it that universities last 100 years and companies don't? No capital. That's why. You think anybody goes in business wanting to die? You think they want to have their company fail in 12 years or 6 years or 25 years? No, they're stuck in a system, right? They're stuck in a traditional system that makes them do this. Banks have the same issue. They want to attract and retain capital. They want to decrease risk. You know, you could say, well, you know, the bank is beholden to the central bank. Well, here's another vision. What about 100,000 banks that are all tapped into the Bitcoin network and they don't have to worry about the Bitcoin network shutting them down? Right? When a bank joins Bitcoin, it becomes systemically robust, much more anti-fragile. This is a benefit to banks, right? They'd like to find a way to do this. This will decrease their risk, increase their earnings, let them create shareholder value, let them delight their clients. They have 1 billion customers. They have corporations. They need to serve them. All of these companies, all of these nonprofits, they all need the bank to support what they do, right? And in time they will. The nonprofits are also going to benefit. They want to raise capital, but also they have endowments. They want their endowments to go up 40% a year, not go up 4% a year. Right? There's nobody running a church, a charity, a benefit, a school that'll say, we don't want our endowment to appreciate and we don't want an endowment. This allows them to harness technology. This allows them to extend their reach globally. You know, Bitcoin is money that's global and it's got a half-life of forever. All of these endowments, they're using money that has a half-life of 10 years or 5 years. Your property might have a half-life of 20 years. Their investments are short duration. Their investments are local right? Their property is local. So Bitcoin stretches your scope across time and space. Now tell me, what charitable pursuit doesn't want to do more and last forever? They all do, right? You won't find anyone that says, well, we just want to be out of business in 3 years. So Bitcoin's the solution to nonprofits. And for governments, traditionally people have thought, well, the government doesn't like or won't embrace Bitcoin. But they will embrace Bitcoin because Bitcoin provides them with the financial power to thrive in the 21st century. And there's no government on earth that doesn't appreciate the power of money, right? This will allow them to lower taxes. It will allow them to strengthen their currencies, defend their sovereignty, improve their economies, join the global community, and delight their citizens. And if you talk to any politician, there's none of them that will say these aren't agenda items for them. And if you say, well, could you achieve that with infinite money? They would say, well, I don't know if I could achieve it, but it would make it a lot easier, right? And if you said, well, how about if I just took all your money away from you in 5 years? Would that make it easier or harder? And the answer is, it would make it somewhere between hard and impossible.
Saylor concluded his presentation by urging every member of the audience to spread awareness about Bitcoin, emphasizing its significance as the digital transformation of capital and energy. He believes that Bitcoin will eventually represent half of all human wealth, with everything else, including medicine, politics, and education, on the other side of the spectrum. Saylor envisions a future where individuals, families, corporations, and governments can fulfill their aspirations without the constraints of the current financial system's issues. He invites feedback on his presentation, encouraging viewers to share their thoughts and observations in the comments section below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.